"Hi, sister," Sophia said as she walked toward Susan, her lips curving into a faint smile. "I didn't expect to see you here so soon." Susan spun around but didn't respond, her breath hitching as she watched Sophia approach. Each step her sister took was deliberate, confident and unhurried, as if she owned the room. Sophia's crisp, tailored skirt and low-cut white blouse hugged her frame perfectly, exuding an air of poise and control. Beside her walked Jacob, his arm casually linked with hers, a gesture that felt like a dagger twisting in Susan's chest. Her fists tightened at her sides, the sting of betrayal blooming fresh and raw. The weight of everything, her family, Jacob, the project, pressed heavily on her, threatening to overwhelm her resolve. The moment shattered as John's voice cut through the air, cold and smug. "Headquarters has decided," he said, his words slow and deliberate, "to hand the project over to Sophia." Susan's gaze darted between Jacob and Sophia, her stomach twisting. Sophia hesitated for a brief moment, stepping back slightly as if surprised to see her sister there. Instinctively, Jacob moved his hand to the small of Sophia's back, a subtle gesture of reassurance that stung Susan like salt rubbed into an open wound. Her voice cracked as she stepped forward, her anger trembling just beneath the surface. "Sophia, what more do you want?" she demanded, her tone raw with disbelief. "You've already stolen my boyfriend. Now you're taking the project I've poured my heart into? Are you really so envious of everything I've worked for?" Sophia opened her mouth, her lips parting slightly, but before she could answer, John laughed, sharp and condescending. "Boyfriend?" he echoed, his grin widening. "Since when was young Master Smith your boyfriend? Stop fooling yourself, Susan. You've been chasing him like a desperate puppy, but he's never seen you as anything more than an inconvenience." The words hit like a slap, hot and humiliating. Susan's face flushed, but before she could summon a retort, John pressed on, his tone growing more smug with every word. "And let's be real, do you honestly think you'd even have this project if it weren't for Jacob? He pulled the strings with the client. Everyone knows that." Sophia raised a hand, her voice soft, almost as if to soothe. "John, that's enough," she said, her tone measured. "There's no need to be cruel." But her words only fueled John's arrogance. He turned back to Susan with a sneer. "Sophia is Jacob's fiancée, after all. She's the rightful person to lead this project. You should be grateful for the chances you've been given." Susan's gaze snapped at Jacob, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Do you believe that too?" Jacob's expression tightened, his brows drawing together, but his tone remained detached, cold. "Young Master Thomas only agreed to meet with you because of my introduction." The room seemed to spin as Susan absorbed his words. Her hands curled into fists at her sides, her nails digging painfully into her palms. "I don't believe this," she said, her voice quieter but no less firm. Her anger simmered, threatening to boil over. "I'm going to see Dad." Without waiting for a response, she turned sharply on her heel, her movements deliberate and fueled by determination. The low click of her heels on the polished floor echoed behind her, a stark contrast to the muted snickers from John and Sophia's calculated silence. In the president's office, Noah Drew glanced up from a stack of papers, his brow furrowing as Susan stormed in. The sharp click of her heels against the polished floor broke the silence, and his irritation was palpable. "What is it now?" he asked, leaning back in his chair, his tone edged with impatience. Susan's chest heaved as she struggled to keep her composure. "Dad," she began, her voice tight with frustration. "Why did you give the Thomas project to Sophia? You know how much effort I put into that." Noah's gaze hardened. He placed his pen down with deliberate care, the click of metal against the desk unnervingly final. "I'll assign you another project," he said coolly. "How about Martin's new season collection?" Susan's laugh was sharp, almost bitter. "Martin's? Is that a joke?" It's a small-scale project, barely worth my time. That's perfect for Sophia. She's inexperienced. She should start from the bottom like the rest of us. Noah's hand slammed onto the desk, the sharp sound reverberating through the room. Enough, he snapped, his voice cold. She's your elder sister. You should show her some respect. Susan's fists clenched at her sides. Her voice rose, trembling with anger. Respect? Respect for someone who stole my boyfriend and now my project? How can you even ask me that? Noah's jaw tightened, his gaze icy. She didn't steal anything. Everything in this company belongs to Drew Corp, and I decide who handles what. As for Jacob, he chose her. You need to accept that. The words hit her like a physical blow, but she refused to back down. He wouldn't have chosen her if you hadn't given her 70% of the company's shares, she said, her voice cracking with fury. You practically handed her everything. Noah's expression darkened further, his patience clearly wearing thin. Sophia endured years of hardship while you were here, safe and comfortable. You should be helping her, not attacking her, and you owe her an apology. Susan's heart pounded in her chest, her voice trembling with disbelief. Apologize? To her? I can't do that. Noah's glare was icy, his words cutting. Then leave. If you can't respect this family, you're nothing without Drew Corp. The finality of his statement settled over the room like a heavy fog. Susan felt her throat tighten, the sting of his words reverberating through her. She fought to steady her voice. Fine, she said, her words laced with defiance. I'll leave. But don't think for a second that someone with my qualifications, a first-class fashion design certificate, won't find a better opportunity elsewhere. She turned sharply and strode out of the office, her vision blurred with unshed tears. In her office, Susan's hands trembled as she packed her belongings into a cardboard box. The faint hum of whispers from her colleagues reached her ears, cutting through the deafening silence. I heard the president fired her because she disrespected Sophia, one voice murmured. She's always been petty, another chimed in. Poor Sophia had such a hard life abroad, and Susan just couldn't handle sharing the spotlight. Susan forced a bitter smile, her fingers tightening around the box. Since the day she started at Drew Corp, she had poured everything into this job. Late nights, countless sacrifices, and endless dedication. And this was how it ended. Her footsteps echoed hollowly as she walked toward the exit, each step heavier than the last. The whispers followed her like shadows, biting at her pride, but she refused to look back. Outside, the cool breeze stung her cheeks, mixing with the heat of her anger and humiliation. She paused at the curb, her box of belongings held tightly against her chest. For the first time in years, she felt untethered, free but directionless. Her breath hitched as she whispered to herself, "This isn't the end. Not yet." That evening, Ethan returned to the villa around 9 p.m. The brightly lit living room greeted him, but his sharp gaze immediately landed on the table. It was covered in a mess of snacks, chips, spicy fries, cheese, and chocolate biscuits. He frowned. "Is this the kind of junk you eat when I'm not home?" he asked coldly, striding over to the table. Startled, Susan looked up. Before she could respond, Ethan swept the snacks into the trash with one decisive motion. "Don't eat this trash in my house. I don't like the smell." Susan stared at the trash can, disbelief flickering across her face. "You're right, hubby," she said, forcing a sheepish smile. "These are trash. I'll stop eating them." Ethan didn't reply, his cold eyes narrowing. "Take a look at yourself in the mirror," he said flatly. "You're so pretentious." He turned and walked toward his room, leaving Susan frozen in place. As he disappeared, she muttered under her breath, "What a control freak." Determined not to let the moment end on a sour note, she called out, "Hubby, you must be hungry. Should I make you some pasta? I make it really well." Ethan paused but didn't turn. Without answering, he continued to his room. Taking his silence as agreement, Susan rushed to the kitchen. 15 minutes later, she knocked on his bedroom door, a steaming bowl of pasta in her hands. There was no response. She hesitated, then slowly pushed the door open. Through the frosted glass of the shower, she saw Ethan's silhouette. Her cheeks flushed as her imagination ran wild. She quickly turned to leave, but the frosted glass door slid open. Ethan stepped out of the bathroom, steam trailing behind him as he adjusted the towel casually tied around his waist. Susan's gaze lingered on the curve of his toned waist before darting lower, and she immediately regretted it.
To listen to the full audio series, install the Pocket FM app now.